Good afternoon everybody. What a magnificent way to start our afternoon. You're here with WildEarth. This is Safari Live. Those are two magnificent leopards. You've only seen one of them. It's a mating pair, Tingana, 9-year-old male, and just behind him their shadow, a 9-year-old female. My name is James Henry. On camera today we have Gendre. Gendre is dressed in an astonishing array of what can only be called agricultural clothing. And on the other vehicle we have Brent Leo Smith, who I think is standing by with some other sleeping kitties, and he is being filmed by the diminutive VM Dorenbrach. In the final control we have Tara Dales twiddling the knobs, and pushing the keys, Jerry. You are most welcome. This is a live safari experience. Hashtag Safari Live if you want to ask us any questions. Tell us anything you'd like, or questions at wildearth.tv if your technological know-how hasn't extended to getting to the Twitter. That is enough looking at me. Gendre, could we look at these magnificent cats again? They've just come out of the drainage line apparently. They have eaten, that's why they are panting. They have relieved themselves liberally in the area, covering the general vicinity with a distinctly foul odour. But that is what these cats do, and they are truly magnificent. They have been mating now for probably 3 days, we think, and they gave us the runaround yesterday. We tried desperately to find them. Hang on a second. Wait a second. We were told that this was Shadow and Tingana and not Karula and Tingana, and the other day apparently we were looking for Karula and Tingana. So I'm actually not sure which female that is. We haven't looked at her yet, so we will move a little bit forward and let's see if we can't have a quick look here. I'm just going to roll forward. Right everybody, get on your identifying goggles. You will, I'm sure, be able to identify this leopard, and you tell me who you think she is. Look at the size difference. It's absolutely astonishing to me how much vastly smaller she is than the male. Right, so we were told that this was Shadow. This is not Shadow in my humble opinion, and that is because, well, I'm going to let you decide who you think she is. I'm 99.999% sure that this is in fact Shadow's mother, an 11-year-old female called Karula. She is now heavily into her daughter Shadow's territory, and she has been mating now with Tingana for 3 or 4 days. And the big interesting thing about this is that this is her third attempt at trying to fall pregnant by Tingana, and so it's a very interesting situation. We've had lots of questions about whether Tingana is perhaps defective when it comes to producing youngsters. We're not really sure. The other exciting thing to me though is that, sorry, I've just got a radio going crazy in my head. All the game drives are getting mobile at the moment, so everybody's trying to get some updates on what's going on the reserve. So every so often it explodes to life and my brain starts to cook. The other reason my brain is cooking, of course, is that it is 30, well, it's supposed to be 30 degrees here, 33 degrees and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that it's probably at least 36 degrees centigrade, which would be pushing 97 degrees Fahrenheit. The weather report is often a bit like our politicians, well, politicians throughout the world, blatant liars. Now, the interesting and exciting thing today, and I'm a little bit sad I wasn't on drive this morning, is that Mvula was found today. Now Mvula, many of you will know as the father of Quarantine and Kwatile, the young almost 3-year-old male leopards, and this is their mother, of course, that we're looking at now. That's Karula, their mother, and they were fathered by Mvula, who hasn't been around. I haven't seen him for a long time, and he was found today. And I think that's just marvelously exciting. I think Brent is going to try and head across there and find Mvula again. Now I think she would be far better served getting out of her daughter's territory, leaving old Tingana alone, and perhaps trying her luck with Mvula and seeing if he can't father another 2 magnificent cubs like he did last time. Beautiful. panting, panting, panting. And they're panting, A, because of the heat, but you can also see her belly is enormously full. Hugely fat belly. They've eaten something. I don't know what it is. There'll be something probably in the drainage line there that they've been eating. And a drainage line, I keep getting asked this because I forget to tell people, is a dry riverbed. So Donna, PFR, Gerda and Diane, you agree that this is indeed Karula, and there are a number of ways of telling, of course. The first, which the viewers pointed out to me, and then re-pointed it out to me because I couldn't see it anymore, is just between her eyes. If you look carefully, you can see the word wow written, and that is a brilliant way to identify that this is Karula. The other is that she seems to have a 2-2 spot pattern, and that means that the spots just above her whiskers, there are 2 on the left and 2 on the right. 2-2. She is deeply tired and deeply fat after a solid meal of something. I'm just looking with my powerful binoculars down into the sort of you keep using the word drainage line here, it's a good word I think, down into the drainage line to see if I can find evidence of a carcass hanging in a tree perhaps, but I cannot. The last time these two shared a meal, they had a buffalo, a young buffalo, after which it seemed to us that Tingana was injured, but he seems to have recovered perfectly from that. He's eating a lot, obviously. He's doing the other thing that mammals were built to do, that is breed. Well, he's certainly making a valiant attempt. His success thereat has been questioned, because he's mated with Karula now. This is the 3rd or 4th time, like I say, and he's mated with Shadow as well, twice. Both times seemingly without success. Although we don't know about Shadow's most recent dalliance with him and whether that's resulted in any pregnancy or not. It's a lovely afternoon. There is a bit of a wind blowing. I think that's because of the heat, and I think what you'll find later on as the sun starts to set, we'll find that the clouds do build over the western Drakensberg and they'll dissipate again by morning, just exactly like they did yesterday. Jean-André, I know this is perhaps not as beautiful as the leopard, but can you see the oil slick over there? Yeah. I'll just show you this, well, Jean-André will show you the source of the atmospheric pollution that we are both experiencing here. There it is. It looks fairly inoffensive. It isn't inoffensive at all. A little bit like lion dung. That is the result of fresh meat diet from carnivores. And of course carnivores, quite apart from the sort of slightly amusing atmosphere of sitting in a green cloud like this, the important thing about that piece of dung is that it indicates the kind of digestive system that a carnivore has. Now a carnivore, unlike a herbivore, has a very long, at least a very short digestive system, because the food and the nutrients in it, the meat, are very concentrated, and that means that it's pretty easy to digest and pretty easy to absorb. But it does mean that the waste products are that much more virulent. So you've got a lot of waste, a lot of toxins when you eat meat. Now if you look at a plain herbivore like a zebra, for example, it will have an enormously long gut that will help it to digest the indigestible, well, the seemingly indigestible plant material that they eat. And then if you look at something like us, which we'd be considered omnivores by most people, ours digestive systems lie somewhere in between, so they're not nearly as long as a plain herbivore's and not nearly as short as a carnivore's. That smell that comes off carnivore dung comes purely from the number of toxins that are in concentrated food like meat. Right, I think we're going to go from 2 gorgeously dappled flat cats across to some others, probably also even more soundly asleep than these, with Brent Leo Smith, and we'll see you back here in a little while.
So we're sort of dozing in the shade here, just like the lions. A lovely lazy Sunday afternoon snooze under a marula. We have positioned ourselves in the same shade as the lions. It's quite nice breeze coming across the valley. I'm sure they're going to be enjoying the cool of the breeze like we are. As you can see, Nkuhumas have probably moved about 4 meters from where they were this morning. And we'll definitely come check on these lions again later on in the Sunset Safari. Unfortunately, they are very close to our boundary. On this wonderful lazy Sunday afternoon, my name is Brent Leo Smith. I have them on camera, and this is Safari Live, and we're sitting live with the pride of lions that are doing pretty much what lions do the majority of the time, and that is sleep. Lions will sleep for an average about 20 out of 24 hours, and even the little bursts of movement they do have are quite short bursts. For those of you who are watching the Nkuhuma Dam Cam this morning, this is the same pride that was seen and that we spent quite a bit of time tracking on the Sunrise Safari, so eventually we did manage to find them. What I'm hoping from here is that they head to Buffalo's Hook waterhole, the closest water. But our cat drought and certainly our leopard drought seems to have abated. And we've got lions, leopard. We had lions and leopard this morning, and already this Sunset Safari we have lions and leopard again. Really interesting that Karula's back with Tingana again. I'm definitely quite interested to hear how that plans out. I think we're probably going to leave these very sleepy lions here, and we'll keep coming back to check on them. The other vehicles also come check on them. I think let's go look for another leopard, the dominant male up here in the northern section of Nkuhuma, Nkuhuma, who we found at the Buffalo's Hook waterhole this morning. So, bye-bye kitty cats. Very lazy kitty cats. Not even a head lifting as we move away. Isn't it wonderful when we start with cat to cat? It hasn't happened for a while, so it's really exciting to have it on the go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head towards the Buffalo's Hook waterhole. There's also a really good chance that we might find some elephants there. Really hot, and they might be having a mud bath or a drink. There will be those hippos definitely there, but the main reason we're heading there is that just behind there there's a drainage line, and I think Nkuhuma, the male leopard, is probably resting or sleeping somewhere in the shade there. Had a nice fat belly this morning, had a wonderful view of him having a drink on the Sunrise Safari. And really exciting for me, I haven't seen Nkuhuma personally in about 2 months. Vicky and Greg from Australia, it is my pleasure being able to share that wonderful leopard with you this morning, Mvula. And as I mentioned, his name means rain. And Vicky and Greg just say it reminds them of one of their favorite South African songs by a South African band called Freshly Ground, and that is Nomvula, which means after the rain. Well, thanks very much, and condolences for last night in the rugby. I was a wallaby yesterday, but unfortunately the All Blacks were the better side. But while we go check down what's happening at the waterhole, we're going to go back to James and those leopards.
So we've left the female. She's just behind this bush. Well, she's behind him, and we've come to him. She's turned around, he's turned back towards us, sort of, and you can see he's in a state of almost discomfort from the amount of food that he has consumed. Now, cats are very good at doing this sort of things, lions especially. They will eat until they literally cannot stomach another morsel, and that's for a number of reasons. The main one, of course, is that they don't know if they're going to have their meals stolen from them by hyenas. So for cheetah and for leopard, it's particularly important that they eat as fast as possible, stuff as much in, and then probably get out of the area, because this, first of all, the smell of their dung, and then the smell of the innards of whatever they've killed will absolutely attract hyenas, especially as the air gets a bit cooler and the smells travel a bit further along the ground. So that's one of the reasons they eat like that. And what it does, of course, is fill their bellies to capacity, and it pushes up against the diaphragm and reduces their ability to expand the chest cavity, and so their lungs can't expand as big as they might normally, and so it's difficult for them to breathe. And the other thing it does, of course, that panting, is it oxygenates the blood, and the more oxygen there is in the blood traveling around the stomach, possibly the quicker those nutrients that are in here. Ooh, here we go, here she comes. It's a bit hot for this, my girl. You're going to be very lucky to induce any kind of action from him. Oh, isn't this wonderful? He's just growling. He's going, leave me alone. Even she doesn't look that enthusiastic. Oh, there we go. Oh, this is just magic. Ah. We see this fairly regularly, everyone, but it's really, we are so lucky to see it as regularly as we do. It really is just spectacular. Oh, and there they go. He's had enough. Oh, he's still limping. He's still limping quite badly. Now, the last time we saw him with that limp was, I think, probably about 10 days ago, possibly a little bit more, and yeah, it doesn't look to be healing particularly well, but he's looking really good at the moment. Alright, let's stay here for now. I don't want to follow him down there. I think she is going to follow him down there. We won't spend the whole afternoon here, unfortunately, because the game drives will be coming in to have a look. And in case you've just joined us, that what we do is we don't have more than 3 vehicles in a sighting normally, and it's an exceptional circumstance, and that just puts a bit less pressure on the animals, and it also means that the guests who come out here and provide such valuable economic input to this area get to have a bit of privacy, and they have more of a wilderness experience. Wasn't that spectacular? So just a bit of a recap, and this will hopefully answer your questions, Andreen and Sarah in Ohio. The situation is, your question basically is, hasn't Karula been mating with Tingana a few times before? Yes, she has. This is her third or fourth attempt at trying to be impregnated by him. And you ask, hasn't she been mating with Mvula earlier this year? I don't remember her mating with Mvula. It's possible that she did earlier on in the year, but certainly she has before. She's had cubs by Mvula, a couple of litters of cubs by Mvula before, and I think she'd be better off trying that again, to be honest. And Shadow has indeed been seen mating alternatively with Karula, and Shadow has not mated with Karula, that's impossible. Tingana has been seen mating alternatively with Shadow, Karula's daughter, and then Karula. So I hope that answers your question. That's pretty normal. She's outside of her territory now, and her territory is basically divided in two by the territorial boundary of Mvula and Tingana. So it's not unusual for her to mate with both of them. It's not unusual for a leopard to go way out of territory to find another male to mate with. So we know that Shadow, for example, before she was mating with Tingana this most recent time, was mating with the Anderson male as well as Tingana. So in the same estrus cycle, which I think is absolutely fascinating. It brings up all sorts of interesting discussion points about multi-paternity and eventually infanticide and all that sort of stuff, which is rather interesting with the mammals. Now, a lot of you keep quite an astonishing and brilliant eye on all the social media stuff that goes on with the leopards and the animals around here, especially from the lodges. And Raisa, you're one of those, and you say that you read on the Arathusa blog that Kwatile, who is a female leopard, perhaps very distantly related to Karula, but I don't think so, in the south of Arathusa, was seen sharing an impala kill with Tingana but not mating with him, and that was last week. Now, there are two fascinating things about this racer. I've seen Mvula steal a kill from Karula before. I've never seen Tingana steal a kill from her, and I suspect that and you say they weren't mating, and so that is very interesting. It is interesting. I think you might find that she will tolerate a male like that in the area. He seems to be a fairly tolerant male, and so they'll tolerate each other while they're not necessarily mating. The other interesting thing about that, I think, Raisa, is that he's scavenging, and I think that is because he's got a very sore foot. So leopards are very effective scavengers if they can be. And, if there's food around, they're pretty good at stealing it, especially from other leopards. But I suspect that has something to do with why they were sharing an impala. I do think it's interesting, and I'm not really sure of the explanation. I haven't seen it before, where a male will share a kill with a female, tolerate her eating with him, even if he's not pregnant, if she's not in estrus. So great stuff. Thank you, Raisa, for that. I'm just going to quickly update the radio and tell them that the male has gone into the drainage line. Oh, sorry, I can't do that. Jean-Ray you may have heard him clearing his throat there. He wasn't in fact clearing his throat, he was trying to get my attention. I can't use the radio because the picture will go black. So I won't be telling anybody. So we'll just enjoy the leopards here on our own. And Brenty is off on foot. He's looking for Mvula in what is a very thick block of trees. Mvula does like to go into that block, and so with any luck Brent will find him there. It's been such a hot day that I can't believe he would have moved too far. But leopards do move a lot more than lions, and I mean, Brent showed you the lions. And I think that Twitter has come up with a brilliant consensus that we should try and arrange a meeting between Karula and Nkuhuma and try and engineer something, given the well, seemingly lackadaisical performance from old Tingana over the last 3 times that they've been together. You'll also, what we will try and do is we'll try and get another look at him. Let's wait for her. I think she will eventually decide that she is feeling amorous, and she'll wander down into the drainage line. That bird you can hear shouting next to us is a crested francolin. They have a very strident call. It's very beautiful if it's not right next to you. If it's right next to you, it's a little bit like having a 4-year-old hitting a pan with a metal spoon right next to your ear. Now the interesting thing, Raisa mentioned a leopard called Kwatile, and Kwatile is not particularly well related to Karula. In fact, I don't think they're related at all, like I said. And Kwatile is a totally different colour from this leopard. Karula is quite pale. She's sort of a honeyed yellow colour, with her black spots, of course. And Karula, at least Kwatile, is much more gold. And she comes from an interesting line of leopards that are very gold in colour. They started at Londolozi with a sunset bend female. She had a couple of offspring, one called the Vomba female, the other then called the very imaginatively named Vomba young female. In fact, no, that was her granddaughter. But they were all known for being extremely golden coloured, and Kwatile has kept that up in her line. And we've only seen her once, or I've only seen her once, way in the south of Arethusa. Beautiful, beautiful leopard. And I hope that she comes north at some stage. I'm also interested to know where Shadow is, because there is a lot of overlap at the moment between their 2 territories, between Karula and Shadow's territories, and when they aren't mating, that isn't normal. They normally keep pretty strict boundaries between each other. I don't think they necessarily have any kind of aggressive defense of their territories, because they are mother and daughter, but certainly they do keep it to themselves a bit more when they're not mating. I'm sorry everybody, I have got to talk on the Game Drive radio. It's impossible for me not to. If you do go black screen, you will come back to us.
Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing some of that now and are working on it as fast as possible to get it sorted and get you back in the vehicle with us.
Sorry about that, we're back. I've told everybody where the leopards are, and that is all I'm going to say on the radio, because it's just not fair that you can't view them. So she's gone fast asleep, of course. The lions are definitely more asleep than she is. Now, lions tend to be a lot better at sleeping than leopards, because they are a lot bigger than leopards, and that means that they are afraid of less. They're also in a group, so they can tell what's going on a bit more easily than a sleeping leopard can. The male's gone down into the drainage. Have you got a view there of her?
Yeah, we'll go.
Okay. She's right there. Sean, let me move back. You can come in here. So They win, Jean-Andre. Is that right? And a little bit back, everyone. Sorry, we just have to make space for the game drive to see. A wonderful shout out from Hayden Turner, all the way from Pimlico in London, watching with his youngster Jack. Hello Hayden. Hello Jack. Wonderful to have you on board, and we will be seeing Hayden very soon. He's coming back out here for Big Cat Week, National Geographic, Nat Geo Wild, sorry, different channel. Lovely to hear from you, Hayden, and I hope Jack's enjoying it. Unfortunately the male has gone off into the drainage line, but Jack, meet Karula, Karula, meet Jack. There you are, Jack. She's very excited to meet you. See, she sat up. You see?
The male went to the box.
He may well have, yes. They had one conjugal affair, and then he disappeared.
Everybody, this is James.
Hello, everyone.
He's currently performing a live game drive, so don't make it feel uncomfortable or anything.
Kathy Ward in Tennessee. You would like to know, does the female ever make contact with the male when she swats him after he dismounts? Kathy, yes, he does. She does indeed. And sometimes I suspect perhaps the limp that he has is a result of being swatted by Shadow during the last mating. That's certainly around about when it happened. Could have been during a buffalo kill, but yeah, absolutely she will make contact. And if you look at his neck, her neck, sorry. Now I've got into trouble for calling Karula moth-eaten before, but if you look at the back of her neck, you can see where he's been biting her during their mating affairs, and that can be quite violent, and it can draw blood at times. So yes, they do make contact. He's normally quite careful of it though, and if we do see them mate again, which I think is unlikely given where he is, what will happen is that when he holds her neck down, that's why he bites her neck, and then he leaps off her. He doesn't kind of gently move away, and that's because she turns around and swats at him. So yes, Kathy, they absolutely do make contact. There he is. Can you see him there, John? I can just see him through the other side there, just straight above her. If you zoom in there and focus, you know, push the focus, is he gone? Yeah, he's moved again, sorry. So he's gone through the other side of the drainage line, and she is not going to tolerate this attempt at an escape by him. I can see him now. You won't be able to see him, you're behind this tree. There she goes. You get through the dam. Okay. What do you reckon the best approach is from here? Okay, alright. I think I'll probably follow you. So that's Sean, everyone. He's from Arathusa. He's going to go around that way and see if he can catch up with her. And we'll, well, I think we'll just follow straight through. What do you think, Jean-Andre? See, we've got a much smaller car than Sean, and that means we can probably get through by just going down here. We may, of course, embarrass ourselves horribly and get stuck. But that would be amusing. Ish. I think we may be even pushing the limits of this little car, Jean-Andre. What do you think? Are they on the other opposite bank? Mating. Okay, there is some mating going on, everyone. Right, hold on, everybody. Watch your eyes, watch your teeth, watch your drinks. Jean-Andre? I take no responsibility for the blood that is about to be drawn from your left bicep as a result of the spike thorn tree. We are really taking a chance now. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Right, well, I know that sounds horrible to you, everybody. This is my new friend, a stick, which I'm going to try and avoid. There we go. Come on, Wendy. Well done, you old bat. Good job.
Nice work, James.
Thank you, Andre. There's a big stone there. That's called being black flagged at the last lap. I can just see the leopards up front there. Alright, while we're repositioning, we're going to head across to Brent. He'll give you an update on Nkuhuma and his tracking expedition, and I'll get into a decent position where we can see these leopards. See you just now.
So, we're in the drainage line, trying to find Nkuhuma. I can't see any tracks down here. I've walked from the dam down, or from here up to the dam and back, so I think maybe a little bit further to the south. But I know James answered a question about a hammerkorp nest yesterday, and we're in the area. The only hammerkorp nest that I know about at Nkuhuma. There we go. Incredibly massive. Multiple entrances, fake entrances, and those tiny little birds build that nest. And quite often you'll find owls or predatory birds sometimes nest on top of it. But there you go, that's the only hammerkorp nest I know about in Nkuhuma. And that probably weighs a good couple of 100 kilograms. Difficult to actually, I mean, that's in a very big marula. So while I was in search of Mr. Nkuhuma, I did locate some things that some of you have seen, but I'm not sure everyone has. And I know in the States you call them Mexican jumping beans, and I don't think they're going to be around for too much longer. So I collected some. Oh, I just need to move to have a flat surface here, otherwise they will all escape. Yeah, quickly. So I brought some ones that aren't infected with the jumping beans as well. So it's a tiny little euphoria moth. The larvae parasitizes a tumbuti, and I can hear them. You can hear them popping all around us. Oh, I can feel that one popping in my hand as I was putting it down. Oh, there we go. Jump, jump. There we go.
Quickly. Okay, everyone. We've got across, and just in time. Now watch carefully as he leaps off, holding her down, and he quickly gets off as she turns around. So Kathy, yeah, you've got a pretty good idea of what happens. And if you're wondering why that happens, it's because he has a barbed penis which hurts her when he withdraws it. Now, just to keep you posted, we are not going to be here for long. We are going to have to move out because there are lots of people coming through. But we have had a very, very wonderful view of 2 matings. And she is lying there now in post-meal and post-coital ecstasy. So you can see, unlike the lions, or mating lions are the same in that they will also sort of display this kind of activity during the heat of the day. But the leopards are just a lot more active than the males, than the lions. I'm just going to get one more view, and then we'll probably move out. Okay, I'll try and get you out of the way there. Sean, will you just tell me when the first standby is here? And I'll pull out. Okay. Okay. The radio is just no good for me. Okay. Yes, quite. Right, so they will probably mate at least sort of in the evenings, probably 5 times an hour, and that will be for 5 days. That is quite a lot of mating, and he's mated with Karula and Shadow, and then Karula again in the last kind of 4 weeks. Right, so one of the things that we do with regard to research is we've been collecting a whole lot of scat or dung, and not a pleasant process, I can assure you. And the idea behind that is that we get an exact DNA marker for the leopards, and we can then tell, we think we know what the relationships are, but we can tell from the DNA exactly what the relationships are. And Donna in North Carolina, one of the main reasons for that is that we don't know if there is multi-paternity in leopard litters. So if you look at her last litter of Quarantine and Nkuhuma, they look different, they have different characteristics, and it's quite possible that they weren't both fathered by Mvula, because they do mate with different leopards when they're in estrus, and so it's entirely possible that they could be fathered by different male leopards, but we don't know that for sure. And this DNA research that's being done on the dung that we're collecting will hopefully kind of tell us exactly what the situation is there. And likewise, a leopard like Sindile, who was born to Shadow, likewise for that, we think that Tingana is Sindile's father, but it's possible that it's Anderson. We don't know. Aye. Ikomin jan. Wangwanyani watafika sus. Okay, Nkuhuma sus. Okay, people, we're going to watch this one conjugal affair, and then we're going to move. He's holding her neck. You can see why that it's moth-eaten now. Very angry. Alright everybody, I'm afraid that's going to be it for us. What a wonderful, wonderful afternoon we've had here. So we'll move out of the way and let these guys enjoy what we have just been enjoying. Thank you for playing. Okay, Nkuhuma. Alright everybody, I'm going to try and hand you back to Brent, because I'm just going to have to announce on the radio that we're leaving, and then we can chat about the sighting all afternoon if you like. So I'm just going to quickly announce on the radio, and that might cut the feed, I'm afraid. So we'll pop across to Brent, and I will see you just now. What an incredible way to start the drive.
So we're moving it down slowly along the edge of this drainage line, checking carefully in the thickets. Unfortunately, it has continued south in the drainage there. It is one of our notoriously bad signal spots. But I know you rushed off to go see the mating. But we can go back to what we were with the jumping beans. So I brought you some non-infected seeds as well. Oh, there we go. To show you what they should look like on the inside. Not the leaping variety. Oh, I keep leaping in my feet. No. But it is incredible. But one little species, it only goes after tumbuiti trees, nothing else. And there, is a tumbuiti seed, the actual seed. And try an experiment. Maybe let's see if we can grow a Tumbuti tree from that. So there we go, tiny little seed, and that's eaten by the larvae that are inside the jumping variety. And so basically the jumping variety will try escape. And you can almost just see the little larvae. And this one's got a little hole in it. You can see the little white rolls. What I'll do is I'll keep it in my little Tupperware here, and he might come out sometime during the drive, and then we'll be able to show you the actual larvae, which should be really fascinating. I've actually seen them so many times. I've never waited for a larvae to come out. But while we wait patiently and try to find Mvula, let's go see what James has got at Red Dam.
Well, from one beautiful and very popular predator of Africa to the most unfairly maligned animal on all the continent, the spotted hyena, lying, as you can see, where anybody with any sense would be lying, in this kind of temperature, in the water. The only thing it's missing, of course, is a cocktail with an umbrella sticking out the top of it. This hyena is simply lying in the water because it is hot, enjoying itself in what is a fairly, it's not a crystalline pool, not the kind of thing you'd find at the Four Seasons Hotel, but for that hyena, perfectly usable. Doesn't he look like he's having a great time? Very relaxed. He's rolled in the mud a bit on his backside, and he's just enjoying the cool. I think that's wonderful. Pretty good nick, that hyena, I must say. I don't think a very old one at all. You can tell that just by the condition of its skin. Very rich, kind of quite red coloured hyena, that, and that's probably because it's a young one. He or she is a young one. I can't tell from here whether that's a male or a female. Very, very different atmosphere now next to the water, because obviously we don't have growling leopards. The leopards are not far from here at all, so this hyena will be very aware that those leopards are not far. It won't be vaguely irritated or affected by it. Leopards don't really pose a threat to hyena of this size at all. Hear the ring-necked doves calling around. Well, they've now stopped, of course, as I said that. Lovely gentle breeze, and as I suspected, there are clouds now starting to form in the west over the Drakensberg. And that's pretty typical for this time of year. We don't have huge storms until the end of November normally. And I suppose I should just find out. Somebody, Stacey's daughter, 4-year-old daughter, went dressed as me to her Halloween party last night, and I hope that Stacey, your daughter, had a good time, and that people weren't too completely confused by the costume that your daughter was going as. I believe also that your dog went as a lion. I've been chuckling about that all day. So the hyena will have the odd drink, otherwise it'll just stop. It won't sleep like a lion or a leopard will. It will be very aware, those ears twitching like little satellite dishes all the time, hearing all the different noises that there are, and of course the smells. And I suspect what you'll find is that as it gets dark, this hyena will go and investigate the kind of smell of rotting meat that is starting to emanate from where Tingana and Karula have been sharing their meal. And as you say, Donna, the hyena is probably quite young. You can see his ears are not chewed up. He does look like he's about to pass out, doesn't he? He looks like his head is about to drop into the water. It's actually quite soporific watching him, I must say. Find my eyes shutting quite close slowly as his head moves towards the water. Always listening though. He might doze a bit, but he certainly won't kind of fall to a dead sleep like those Nkuhuma lions you watched earlier. Very beautiful animals, these hyenas. Most maligned unfairly. They're actually incredible hunters. Should we go down to the bottom? Right, what we're going to do is just go around the side and we'll get a slightly different angle on him. It's very tempting to just go in there and join him. It's not really. The smell of him will be fairly offensive. So the leopards are just off to the left-hand side of your screen where I was pointing, and I don't know if they'll move too far from there, but there are lots and lots of people coming in to look at those two magnificent leopards. Now the last time we saw him with shadow was exactly this position. They came up from in front of us in there. There's another little sort of depression in there, and they came up down onto this road and then walked off along that road. So Tingana is absolutely within his territory, not so much for Karula. She is well inside Shadow's territory. We'll just stop here where we can have a good look at him from a different angle. Now, we've had a number of questions from North Carolina before, but I'm not sure that we've had too many from South Carolina before. And Earl, you're in South Carolina, and you are most welcome if this is your first question. Thank you for it, and thank you for taking the time out to watch us. You want to know about how long it takes for them to conceive. In theory, Earl, about 5 days. The mating process induces ovulation. She comes into estrus. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that fertilization takes place actually in the fallopian tube. But the constant mating, and I think the contraction of her uterus as they mate results in the ovulation, and that process takes 5 days. How are you doing? Good. So you'll find, well, it's supposed to take 5 days. In Karula's case, it's taken months. But yes, it should take about 5 days. And please do not fear. Patty Cook, please do not fear. The hyena is not stuck in the mud at all. The hyena is very happily bathing in the mud. This is the equivalent of a spa jacuzzi pool session for this hyena. He is very happy where he is, listening to the birds, enjoying the cool, hearing the little clicks of those jumping moth larvae that Brent was showing you in the Tambuti. You can hear them just around here, and enjoying the breeze as it comes off the coolth of this great grey green water of the Pan. That unfortunately is not mine, that is Rudyard Kipling's. Chandra, can you see that wasp there collecting mud with a very carrot-tipped bottom?
Not seeing it. Right, gotcha.
And now it's gone away.
There we go.
Let's see where we go. We're just going to pull out of the hyena, everybody, and have a look at this wasp before it's flying away. There, it's landing again. It's obviously a mud wasp that's collecting mud for its nest, and you may just be, there he is. Now, see if you can see, he's got this beautiful carrot red backside. Now, I've been stung by one of those. It is deeply unpleasant. I mean, you have to be seriously allergic for it to have any actual effect, but I think I did say the old really bad word when I was stung by one of those fellows. And that's collecting mud to go and build a little mud wasp nest. We'll spend a little bit longer with this hyena and see if he doesn't move, and then we'll probably head off and see what else we can see. Falling asleep. Oh, lovely reflection of hyena in mud. And I think what you'll find there is that when he turns to the left like that, he's hearing the sound of the leopard, possibly mating. But the atmosphere is so different here, not having those two great cats walking around. I'll just try and find a picture of that wasp while we look at the hyena. Now, I mean, just to give you an idea, there are an astonishing number of wasps and insects, and I mean tens of thousands of species in southern Africa alone of different kinds of invertebrates. And so the chances, it's not like with a bird field guide where you know that just, well, every single bird that you find here is going to be in the bird field guide. The same as cannot be said for the insects, because the book would be in 24 volumes. Ah, there he is. His name, everybody, is Nkuhuma natalensi. Nkuhuma natalensi, aka carrot bottom. There we go. There we go. You see, it says nests. Here we go. That's him there. And it says here that they nest in the mud nests of other wasps, making cell partitions with mud, and that's what they were collecting. So lots of them are, I mean, you get quite a few with the red or carrot-tipped bottoms, and that's one of them. Nkuhuma natalensi. Can you say that, Chandra? Nkuhuma natalensi. There we go. Alright, I think that this hyena is not going to move unless Nkuhuma natalensi stings him on the bottom, and I don't think that's going to happen. So let's press on and see what else we can find here on Aratuza. Right, onward, and in fact upward as well. Now this dam went totally dry. I mean, calling this a dam is at one stage. And that little bit of rain that we had, about 30 millimeters over the course of a day and a half, about 4 days ago, has resulted in us covering of mud, which is very important on hot days like this. It's important for warthogs, it's important for buffalo, rhino, elephants. They all like the mud. Warthogs especially are particularly drought sensitive. They can't deal with droughts, so they will be having a particularly tough time at the moment. It's going to be a beautiful evening. Let's go. Now, for those of you who do not know, a hyena baby is known as a cub, and not a pup. And that's mainly, well, we tell people that it's because they are more closely related to cats. Now, Dennis in Lakeville says, yeah, well, all very well, why do we call bears cubs and not pups when they are more closely related to the canines? Dennis? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that often these names they're English conventions, they're not biological conventions often. and so I suspect it's just got, one's stuck and the other, well, they're both stuck. And perhaps the reason we call hyenas cubs has got really nothing to do with the fact that they are more closely related to the cats. Maybe it was just a convention to start with. But certainly hyenas are more closely related to cats than dogs. But I don't think that often the nomenclature doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the biology. It's a little bit like those the names that we use, the collective nouns, the journey of giraffe and dazzle of zebra and a parliament of owls. A biologist would never use terms like that. It would be a herd. For all the animals, it would just be a herd, and any group of birds would be a flock. So I think that's probably why, Dennis. That's probably a fairly unsatisfactory answer, but that's the best I can do at the moment, I'm afraid. Flies are out in great profusion. We've talked a lot about water of late, and certainly as the dry season progresses, well, I mean, we're not quite in dry season, we're coming out of it now. We've had a bit of rain. Mercedes, some nice queries about catfish and whether we pump water and water management. Mercedes, we don't. That particular dam there is not pumped. There is one pumped dam on Juma, and that's the one outside Buyatela camp, where the dam cam is. There's a little pumped section there, a little pond that is pumped. I think they probably pumped the waterhole at Arathusa, and I know that there are definitely various parts of waterholes around the Sabi Sands that are absolutely pumped full of water to help the animals. Now, your second query has to do with catfish and what happens to them in the dry. Mercedes, they don't get frozen in time like you say, but something similar happens. They will go into something like a torpor. Now what that is that the metabolism will slow right down. They cover themselves in a kind of mucus sheath. They'll go under the mud can solidify atop them, and as long as they've got very sort of thin breathing holes that go to the top, they can get enough oxygen to survive, and they'll slow their metabolism right down, so they're not eating a lot of food, they're not using a lot of food, they're not using a lot of oxygen, and they probably don't maintain their body temperatures at all. Well, they don't, they're exothermic. And so what will happen is that when the rain comes, like you correctly predict, they'll come out of the mud and come alive again. Lovely query, thank you. So I think our plan now will be go down towards the Arathusa Dam, see what we can spot there, maybe some elephants coming down to drink, and then we'll head back towards Juma. The conversation steers its way back around to safety and the chances of either being bitten, horned, or stung in this case by something. Now, Lyle in Washington State, you ask, do bees and wasps nest above ground or below ground, and have I ever stood on a wasp's or bee's nest during a bush walk? Lyle, they nest all over the place. Hornets, you get so many different kinds. They'll nest in tree holes, they'll nest hanging from branches, some of them will nest in termite mounds, bees will nest in hollow trees, they'll also nest in termite mounds. Very few will nest below the ground unless it happens to be in a termite mound. So mostly above ground, Lyle. I've never actually kicked one over or stepped in one on a bushwalk. I did disturb I think I've told this story before, but I'm what might be termed an amateur golfer. An amateur is in the strongest possible sense of the word, and so I spend most of my time in the golf course in the bushes looking for my ball. And the other day I was doing such in Hoedspruit, and I was set upon by a nest of about 30 hornets, and they stung me on the head. It was very sore. I said some bad words and screamed a lot. But Lyle, that's the only bad experience I've ever had with these animals. So really, I don't think it's anything to worry about. certainly I've never had anyone stung on a walk. The one carrot-tipped wasp that did sting me on the back of the neck, I was digging in the bush and I hit a bush next to where I was digging, and it came out of the bush and ding, it got me on the back of the neck. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, certainly for hornets and wasps, I think the chances of being allergic to them are much smaller than the chances of being allergic to bees, if I'm not mistaken. Bees, of course, if you are allergic to them and you disturb a swarm, or you get attacked by a swarm, can be absolutely terrifying and can result in death. But I mean, it happens so seldom, especially given the number of bees that there are. It happens really, hardly ever happens at all. I've never seen it happen myself. Oh, one of my favourite tiny little things Brent has found. I'm actually extremely jealous of it. We're going to hand you across to him to show you a little gem of the bushveld.
So while I've been wandering around in the drainage line looking for this leopard, I've come across an incredibly beautiful little beetle. When I first spotted it, and I let them know, I thought it was a jewel beetle. It's not, even though it's got very similar colouring to a jewel beetle. I'm just going to try to get him to turn a little bit. But you can see that emerald, blue, red. I'm not quite sure actually what type of beetle this is. I originally thought, just from the coloration, it was a jewel beetle, but jewel beetles have a very long carapace. It's very different shaped insects. To me, it looks like it's possibly a fruit chafer, but I've never seen a fruit or flower chafer of this incredible colour before. Where are you going? There you can see that little red on the bum as well. Almost looks like a sort of an armoured car, but a very pretty armoured car. You can see he's actually sitting up, cleaning his front feet there. But why don't you just do it for camera now? Or not? There we go. Cleaning his antennae. Isn't that incredible? Look how he puts his antennae between his front legs and drags it through. Oh, now let's clean the feet. He's probably trying to work out where he is. I really wish I could tell you exactly what it is, but he looks like a little armoured car. Let's have a look if he sits in the sunlight a little bit. I just want to see if he turns a little bit. Come on. Sorry, big guy. Yeah, turn around. You can see very distinct how the back tucks down to protect his soft abdomen, and he's got sort of that armoured plating. He's a very bedazzled armoured plating, but very, very beautiful nonetheless. I think Ephraim was trying to give me a fright by lobbing a stick next to me, and I just heard a giggle come out of the bush behind us, and it's Ephraim. Ephraim's been checking for Mvulo. He's been checking on this eastern side of the drainage line. I've been walking on the west, and I've just been standing by here to actually get an update from F. How are you, Mvo?
Good, how are you? No, lucky.
No, loot.
The way from there, the spread is very like wet. The spread is very dry, I couldn't see.
Yeah, it's from the rain, you can't see the tracks. So, also, I also checked the other Shkova, the one off Hyena. I couldn't find any tracks crossing. Maybe it's...
Sometimes it's no more than...
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So, it's not only us who gets frustrated by these cats. You can see all of us. We've been walking, but we're going to carry on. I'm going to give this area one last go. I hate giving up on a leopard, but we'll go see what James has got.
Well, we hoped. We put it out there to the universe, and there was an elephant. We're not quite at the dam, and I don't know if they've been there or they're on their way. I'm sure they've probably been. If they haven't been, they would probably be going there. The whole herd all the way around us. There are a few more over there, There are some just behind us, and we kind of drove into the middle of them without noticing, and there they were. They seem to be pretty relaxed, which is excellent news. We don't want them to be upset by our presence. Whoops, sorry about that. I'll have a word with Chandra afterwards. Communicate with him through the medium of a clenched fist. Should we sneak a little forward? I'm just going to get a little bit forward so we can get a better look at this young cow here. Alright. And they will be feeding extensively now, just before they go and have a drink. I think they're going to go and have a drink. This is actually a young bull or young cow. It's quite difficult to tell, and it's quite a good idea to remind ourselves now and again about how to do it. Males, apart from the obvious, have much rounder heads and much more hollow backs than females, and they're also, the females, if they're adult, have got very obvious inguinal mammae, i.e. mammary glands between the front legs. So he's not a very big elephant, but he's very, very confiding and very trusting of us so close, which is just wonderful. I'd say probably a 15 or 16-year-old elephant. Yeah, it looks like a young bull. Really enjoying the new green leaves on the trees, tossed in with a bit of twig and bark. Now there are probably 10 or 12 elephants around us, and you can't hear them at all. It's just amazing to me how silent they are. Blowing her nose. We're a little bit in her way here, but I'm not going to start the engine because I think it was, in his way. It might give him a little bit of a fright. And because he's a youngster, we'll just let him walk past us. He's only about 2 meters from the edge of the car, you know. And that's it about, well, it's just over 6 feet, say 6.5 feet. I hope they go down to the water because it'll be lovely and open down there. The light will be softening nicely. Oh, look at it. Isn't he wonderful? I can't believe how relaxed he is with us. I think it's just so special when they get this trusted. Now, I'm hoping against hope that this herd is the one in which that tiny little baby is living. On Friday 2 weeks ago, it was my birthday, and we found a tiny little baby, probably no more than a day or 2 old, still pink, and still with a bit of umbilical cord hanging from its belly, and they were a very relaxed herd on Arathusa, not far from where we are now, and so I'm hoping maybe this is the herd. They're all around us. We can't see many of the rest of them because it's pretty thick bush. Hi. So special. Alright, let me go up ahead. I'm going to turn around. We'll come back down this way. Can't turn around right here. We'll just go up to the top, do a U-E and come back. Not mistaken, the water from the dam is just down over there, so I think they are heading in that direction. Right, around we go. And I'm very, very sorry. Earl, you are not alone in South Carolina. Donna, of course you did. I remember you asked me to do a Nyala dance in my first few weeks here. It is a memory of embarrassment that I'd obviously blocked from my mind. But thank you very much for alerting me to the fact that Earl is not alone as a Safari Live fan in South Carolina. Thank you very much. So the elephants are all amongst us here. There they are, going down the road, flapping their ears away because it's hot and they need to cool down their brains. Some of them through there, some of them here, some of them just on the road. They'll use the road for exactly the same reason that you and I will use the road. I'm just going to keep going down the road, following them rather than stopping everyone. We'll just slowly edge behind them and see where they go. There's a pretty big cow in front there. And she'll be keeping an eye on us. Make no mistake. See how she just disappears when she doesn't want to be seen anymore? She's obviously told them to get off the road. Everyone must move off the road. Here's one next to us. We'll just stop here. They seem to be starting to move now, and often what happens with these elephants is that the matriarch will give a call, which is a low rumble. And that low rumble will mean something like let's get a move on, go and have a drink, or stop here, the eating is good, or watch out, there's a car coming along the road, get off the road. So I'm not sure what she said, but they've definitely started moving again after we first saw them. I'm just trying to picture exactly where the water is. I think it's down there though. I don't know if they are going there. No, let's carry on. Totally gone. Can't even see any elephants now, and they're probably it's bigger than the herd that I thought it was, so it's probably about 20 of them. Just melted into the bush. It's just amazing. They're all through there. I'm not going to go blasting in there after them, it's very thick. There are a whole lot more walking down the road in a little group, flapping their ears. It's really a very nice little picture. They will just very gently follow them along. Another big car going to come in from the left of your screen now. Now you see the way she turns her head like that to the right hand side. Now what she'll probably do it to the left or again to the right, or not. But what she's doing there is watching us. Ooh. See the ears flapping, that's extremely important. They can pump all of their blood through those ears in less than 20 minutes. And so that really keeps them cool. You can see it's fanning constantly, fanning away. Quite a few off to the sides, mainly down to the right hand side of where we are, and the rest obviously in front of us on the road. There we go, and the edge of the heat has just come off. You feel that? Just like that. It doesn't mean it's getting cold by any stretch, but it just means that the bush will now start to go after a hot day. Turning into a marvellous afternoon. A nice cool breeze coming from the front of us. just going to take out my... Now I know exactly where we are now. They're not going towards the water. They're heading back towards Nkuhuma. I'm just going to stop here for a little while and we'll watch them from where we're sitting. And I'm sure they're going to move a little bit, or fairly soon down the road, unless the matriarch has decided that this is a good spot for them to be. Yeah, they're not near the water now. I'm loath to get any closer to them because I think we might irritate them if we get too much closer on this particular road. So let's just wait here if you don't mind. There are a whole lot more coming across the road there, maybe we should go down there. They're all going to come up sort of towards this way. We'll park here. We'll just be able to observe quite the ones coming across the road if they do come across, and then we can look this side at those ones. There's a couple coming across the road now. Nice big herd. Totally relaxed, totally unfazed by us, but watching us carefully all the time. You saw that cow as she walked down the road. Here comes another one. And you look how green it looks. Doesn't it look, I mean, it looks perfectly tropical. Quite a few tuskless elephants around this area that I've noticed. Some adults, quite a few youngsters. And I wonder if this isn't something in the gene pool here. Ooh, I recognize her. She's not tuskless, but she's got, well, a fairly alarming set of the tusk there. You can see it was curling up under her eye. Bad needs of some orthodontic treatment. Right, so what we'll do is we'll move slowly along this road. Oh, there's one coming right behind us here. Little one. Sorry about the aerial, I just don't want to move. I want to see how close he's prepared to walk towards us. And starting the engine, of course, is a big challenge to elephants. They hear it and they perceive it as a challenge. Smelling us. Sorry, Chandra. Whip it around. It's about 1.5 meters from us, 5 feet, and just made a little infrasonic grumble as he walked past. Oh, as if to say, what are you doing in my way? Which is a valid query. So we've got some good views of them walking along and the angles of their feet. And Jeannie, you say elephants look like they're pigeon-toed, especially at the back. Jeannie, I have to say I haven't noticed that. And I think what you'll find is that you probably, just like with human beings, you'll have some people that are duck-footed, like me, and you'll have some people that are pigeon-toed. You know, I can't think of anyone who's pigeon-toed at the moment. And probably to a lesser extent than humans, probably with a lesser kind of obvious difference, but I don't think that they are necessarily pigeon-toed. They've got pretty straight feet normally. Maybe it just gives you that impression because the hips are slightly turned in. Maybe the angle of the I've forgotten the name of the bone now, but basically the calf bone at the back on the leg. Let's go a little bit closer. Trying to roll down the road and make as little noise as possible. Not easy in a Land Rover, the age of this thing called Wendy. A little further. She is starting today, which we must not be ungrateful for. They're definitely not going to the water. They've decided that this is a good spot for food, and they're all coming through this very thick bush now, having a good feed. I think it's getting very thick in here, everybody, so what I'm going to suggest we do is stick with our original plan. Let's head down towards Arathusa Dam and see if we can't find something else there, and maybe these chaps will pop out there. It's very thick in here, so we probably won't get too much of a great view. Although here's one. We'll have another quick look here. There we go. Difference in the sizes there, you can see. Oh, here's the little one smelling us, swinging his trunk. He's doing a little bit of a swagger. That swagger is something to watch out for when they're big bulls and they're in must. It's called a must swagger. He won't be doing that now, but he's just doing a little practice. And they're so peaceful at the moment. That said, you do watch very carefully all the time, looking for any indication of discomfort in the elephant's body language. But at the moment they seem completely relaxed with us. Now I hope some of you who watch it, I know some of you have been out here, and I hope that some of you will be able to come out here again, and others who haven't been will be able to come, and sometimes you will drive yourself in the Kruger National Park and you will get very little by way of instruction in terms of how to drive around wild animals. Now, in the case of just about every animal, it really doesn't make a huge difference as long as you don't behave like a total idiot. But with elephants, I always find it amazing that people don't A, ask, and B, are not given a little pamphlet or something on how to deal with driving past elephants in your own car. Now, it's all very well in a Land Rover like this. We can go backwards, forwards and sideways basically through any kind of terrain we like, but if you're in the Kruger and you're in your own car, obviously you're sitting much closer to the ground and you've only got an asphalt road to drive on. And so what you need to be careful of if you're ever driving through the Kruger, remember what I say here about the engine. If an elephant gets close to you and you start the engine, remember they will perceive that as a challenge, especially some of those big bulls. And just remember that while we drive up to these elephants, I'm watching their behavior so carefully all the time to make sure that we don't threaten them. And once you've threatened an animal and it starts to tell you that it doesn't like being around you anymore, then it's normally best, especially if you don't have too many escape routes, to just back off a bit. So if you ever do come out here, let us know, #Safari Live of course, or questions at WildEarth.tv, and we'll happily run through a couple of key things to look out for if you're going to be driving yourself around the magic that is the Kruger National Park. Here is that rather oddly tusked elephant. Interesting query from Alan in the UK. Now this cow is not quite as comfortable as the others have been, but she's walking towards us in a very relaxed fashion, but she's coming to have a look at us. There's no question. You can just tell from her body language she's just lifting her head a bit more, but I think she's okay. There's something to watch out for there, and look how incredibly cleverly she hides. There's probably also the slightly alarming look of that pointy uppy tusk. Alan, you want to know about Indian elephants and would they survive in Africa? Alan, I'm going to say no, they wouldn't. I mean, it would depend where they were. If you gave them enough to eat and they weren't in an environment as hot as the one we're in now, I think you'd probably find they were okay. One of the big differences is the size of the ears between Indian and African elephants. African elephants have got these enormous ears, and that you can see them flapping constantly in the heat. Remember, an Indian elephant, while India does get extremely hot in places, they're generally living inside in pretty shady jungle areas, and I think you'll find that that has resulted in them having much smaller ears, because they don't need them as a cooling mechanism like these elephants do. But if you took them into a slightly cooler area than this, where they weren't exposed to the sun the whole time, and you gave them enough to eat, I see no reason why they shouldn't survive here. I don't know that they'd thrive in this particular area. If you just introduced a herd into this area, I'm not sure how well they'd do. This has turned into just magnificent elephants, I think. Another one coming off to our right-hand side now. So, Shamrock, you've hit on a very interesting topic. Now, for those of you who don't know, when an elephant dies, not of old age, unless, as long as it isn't sick or it hasn't been tusked by a recalcitrant bull or something like that, they die when their teeth wear out, and they get 6 sets of molars during their lives, and once that last set of molars wears down, the elephant will slowly starve to death, basically, and you find them moving down towards the water in order to eat softer vegetation. So Shamrock, your question about whether in areas of higher rainfall they live longer because they can eat some softer vegetation is a good one. Yes, that is the case. Often higher rainfall, though, doesn't necessarily predict softer vegetation. So I mean, certainly some of the highest rainfall areas in the world are filled with trees, forests. The Congo Basin, the Amazon. So ideally, I mean, an elephant in the Okavango Delta, for example, if it chose to live there permanently, could eat pretty soft food most of the time. Those that live around here definitely eat a bit more in the way of bark than that, and I think you'll find elephants in the Ngorongoro crater or on the Serengeti probably eat a huge amount more grass than our elephants do, and so their teeth probably do last a bit longer than ours, and therefore they probably do survive slightly longer. Ooh, attacked by a fly. They probably do survive a bit longer than our elephants do. It's not funny, John. Okay, let's leave these elephants to themselves. What a wonderful sighting. As we drive away from these elephants, we've been watching them walking along the road, and Lara in Michigan, you want to know about their feet and how on earth they don't get cut up and destroyed by the thorns and the sticks. Lara, they have got the most astonishing calluses on the underside of their feet, probably about that fat, of kind of hard packed skin. So if you imagine, I'm sure you've all met people that don't ever wear shoes, and they get that callus on the underside of their feet. The elephants have the same thing, but it's about that thick, and so they do get thorns in their feet, and eventually they just kind of scrape off. towards the south. And we shall head gently on towards the east. Right, let's go and see how those lazy lions are doing with Brent Leo Smith, and I will see you on the other side of that.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, there's an Inyala probably sneaking through the bush. The Inyala hasn't noticed the lions at all, and the lions certainly haven't noticed the Inyala. But there's a beautiful sky behind them, and even if the lions did notice the Inyala, I think it's a little bit too open here for them to actually have a chance, unless the Inyala literally walked on top of them. Let's see, no one's noticed her yet. Not even a head raised. Definitely a lazy Sunday for the lions. They are quite hungry, so we're going to spend, I think, the rest of the sunset safari with them in case they get moving. Fingers crossed they don't head across the northern boundary, but rather head towards the Buffelshoek waterhole. Tired kitties. But as I said, they are hungry, and patience is the most important weapon in your arsenal when it comes to seeing really high action stuff with the big cats, and you just have to wait it out. I think it's going to be a brilliant sunset coming through shortly as the sun drops below the clouds. You might get that little bit of golden light on the lions, but still a few minutes before that. There you can see that sky. Another tough day in the office. Ideally, we'd love a breeding herd to start ambling in, and then hear a breeding herd of buffalo, and then hear that brrr, 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 and all the stampeding of hooves. I think that might wake them up. Yeah, just go to this lioness closest to us, just to the front of her. You can actually see the grass moving from her breath. Look at that. At first I thought there might be a bug there, but then I realized it's just her breathing. Well, we're a bit disappointed the breeze has died down. Even though the temperature has dropped, it is still quite warm. There we go, another piece of grass moving with a lion's breath. See how short and shallow her breathing is because of the heat. And that's why they're not moving. They're trying to minimize moving in the hot when it's still hot. I'll put my binoculars back here. Back. See, there's something in the tree there, yeah?
Oh, okay.
Let's have a look what that is. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, there we go, thank you. There's something I just noticed is very dark shape, and it looks very abnormal in the tree. And there's a bird. It looks like a cuckoo, but a very fluffed up one. No, it is not a cuckoo. I have no idea. Let's just have a quick meander down there, see what it is. The lions are not moving. Oh, Junior, got a fright. You were so fast asleep. Oh, look at that lovely light. Whatever that is on the tree isn't moving. Oh, I see a head. Look at that beautiful light on them. Oh, and flop down. Oh yeah, it's popped its head up, that creature in the tree. And it is a bird of prey. It's busy preening itself now. I'm not sure what it is yet, it's just quite difficult to see. When I sneak again a little bit closer. Whoop, whoopsie, no range. What a beautiful, beautiful summer's evening out here in the African bush. And it's incredible, we're bringing this to you live. Wherever you are in the world, you're joining myself and James and the rest of our crew on live African safaris. It's a pale morph Warburg's eagle. There we go. That's what the funny thing in the tree was. Very strange to see them sitting in thorny knob thorns like that. Normally you see them in slightly more open trees. Hello, Warburgs. Okay, well, let the Warburgs preen away. So while we move back towards the lions and try to give you a lion sunset, we're going to pop across to James with the sunset.
Well, everybody, we just thought we'd stop here and show you a little bit of the sun. And the sun is obviously sinking, as the sun normally does at this time of the day. And I also found a little bush called a sandpaper bush, or Erita amina, locally used for tooth cleaning because it is very rough. Now my pearly whites, of course, are, well, they're relatively white, I think, for... Johnny, you can have a look at that. What do you think? Not so good.
Might need a checkup.
Okay. I haven't been to the dentist for a while. Anyway, there are lots of things out here that people used to use to clean their teeth. And I remember listening to a history story once from a particularly poor history teacher at school. It's astonishing to me the number of bad history teachers I had at school, given how fascinated I am by history now. Anyway, this fellow was telling the story of Dingaan. Now Dingaan was a notorious king of the Zulus. He came after Shaka. He murdered Shaka with a spear to the back through his hut wall one evening, and he was a corpulent, fat man, but all the stories made mention of the fact that he had these white teeth. And nobody else seemed to find this an odd thing, but, you know, we'd been told as young children to clean our teeth every day, or we'd end up with rotting, brown, mangled things that would eventually fall out of our gums. And I thought to myself, back in 1835, how on earth did Dingaan, king of the Zulus, keep his pearly whites so pearly white and straight? And the teacher gave me one decent answer. He said they did it with ash, and of course they did do it with ash, mainly with ash from the leadwood tree. Not many. That's the knobthorn tree. No leadwoods around this particular area, but it makes a very white ash. And then they'd take a bush like that and use its abrasive surface to brush the teeth, but it was that ash. And all the way around here, so many of the local people that I've worked with, the Shangaan people, have got the most stunning teeth. And despite the fact that they've never visited a dentist in their lives before, they've got teeth that look pristine. Compared with some of the other people I know, I've used this term before, who could eat an apple through a tennis racket, as they say. Their teeth, grow at alarming angles and discolor quite astonishingly, despite years and many dollars, many hundreds of dollars spent on fixing them. Right, so we just thought we'd show you a bit of the sunset as it goes down below the Drakensberg. It is the most glorious ginger pink and orange colour at the moment. It'll go redder as it hits the clouds a bit later, but we'll keep an eye on it. For the moment now, we're heading up due north towards Zoe's Road, and we'll just see what's happening there in the groves of silver cluster leaf. I'm hoping there's going to be some interesting life in there, perhaps insect life, and the flowers especially of the silver cluster leaf, which smell, well, they smell foul, but they're just really fascinating too. It's amazing to be next to a tree that smells like that. I've plugged into the wrong hole. That is an issue. There we go, Tara, you must speak with me at will. No, hang on, wrong side. There we go. In fact, before we do that, let's go down to Treehouse Dam. There was a bit of mud there the other day, and maybe there's some buffalo lurking down there. Ooh, sorry, I'm just going to stop here, Jean-Bray. See that bird? It's an unusual one. It's called a Senegal lapwing. And in fact, there's a whole family. That's mother or father, and I'm just going to sneak forward. There are a whole lot more there, which are being particularly irritating because they're running behind a tree. But they're two littler ones. Can you see them? Sort of.
Not seeing the little.
Okay, there they go. They're two little.
Behind that little.
Yeah, they're very clever at doing that. Anyway. That's the Senegal lapwing, everybody. That movement behind the greenery of the tree is called a Senegal lapwing. That's a baby one. I think we're probably into the law. Oh, there we go. That's mum or dad with son or daughter. And in the distance you can hear the red-crested korhaan. As Heike very kindly told us yesterday, Shikolokolo in Shangaan is the red-crested korhaan. Right, to Treehouse Dam and beyond. Yesterday, of course, was Halloween, and Viam and I got into the spirit of Halloween. It's not a huge thing in South Africa. It certainly seems to get slightly bigger every year, but I know in the States it's a massive thing. And I dressed myself up as a gwarry bush. Very imaginatively, I taped some gwarry bush to my head, and B. Wilson, you want to know if, in fact, the elephants would have come closer to me had I been disguised as a gwarry bush. No, B. Wilson, I think they probably would have chuckled to themselves and said, what an idiot, and then headed off into the bush. They don't actually eat gwarry. I've never seen an elephant eating gwarry bush, so it was a particularly good choice on my part to keep the elephants from trying to steal it. And then Jennifer, you say your daughter, little Gracie, went as a leopard to Halloween. I think that's a much better choice than gwarry bush. I think a leopard would be infinitely more appealing than duct taping a bit of tree to the top of your head. We didn't have a party. We actually quite un-Halloweenishly watched the final of the Rugby World Cup, where the mighty All Blacks took on Australia and beat them thoroughly. It was a marvellous game, and it's over for the next 4 years. And I know many of you, of course, will not, especially those watching in the States, will not necessarily be avid rugby watchers. But the USA did have a team in the Rugby World Cup this year. They didn't do as well as they have done in the past, but I know it's not a big sport out there. now we're going to be very sensitive about the next answer that I give here. Becky in Texas. You want to know, do leopards live beyond the age at which they can breed, and is there an age beyond which they cannot breed, and is Karula getting to that age? Now, I suggested once that Karula was getting on, I think was the term that I used. This provoked a storm of protest on Twitter, so I had to back off quite quickly. She's not, I suppose I was being slightly unfair. She's not getting old, at least she's not getting on. She's 13 I would say is getting old. 14 is pretty old, 15 is old, and anything beyond that's bonus. But Becky, what's interesting is that they will be able to breed almost until their last year of birth, at least of life. They don't go into kind of a menopause or anything like that. So they will be able to give birth pretty much until they die. I don't think 11 is anything to worry about in terms of breeding. I think that, especially given the lack of success with Shadow, possibly the problem is Tingana and not the two ladies that he's been consorting with. Nkuhuma, just around here, that's what we want. Tingana is a magnificent specimen, but Nkuhuma has certainly had some success with Karula before. So we'll just head down to Treehouse Dam here, it's not too far. And we're just going to head down towards Treehouse Dam. We'll see what's there. And Jennifer, while we're doing that, you want to know about, as far as the leopards go, when they sorry, I'm just looking at some elephant tracks on the road here. Right. So, Jennifer in Toronto. I've completely forgotten what you asked. Tara will read it to me again now. Sorry about that. Oh yes. Okay, got it. Right, constant mating. So Tingana's been mating again and again. In fact, over the last 4 weeks he's pretty much been in a constant state of mating. And Jennifer, you want to know that continual mating will eventually result in his losing condition. Oh, elephants. Thank you, Jean-Jay, for that subtle whistle that you gave us. Jennifer, I don't know exactly what nutrients are lost in the semen of leopards. I think it's probably quite similar with human beings, where you need quite a lot of zinc. Men are definitely requiring to have zinc, and I suspect that there will be some kind of nutritional deficiency if he continues to have to mate the whole time. But whether or not his body would, he might just stop mating if he goes below a certain nutritional status. He might also know what foods those are, and lick sand to get the nutrients that he needs. They do have an astonishing ability, animals, to we're not in fact, you know what, we're not going to follow these guys in here. I've been into this block. It is thicker than the Bundi impenetrable forest. So Jennifer, I hope that answers your question. While we watch these elephants melt into the bush here, let's go back and check in with Brent in the Nkuhuma Pride. I believe Junior is there. Please give him my regards and tell him to watch out for me. I'll see you just now.
Look at that magnificent African sun. We say African sun, it's the exact same sun that we all share all over the world, but for some reason just seems to be a little bit more beautiful in Africa, especially when there's a sleeping Nkuhuma Pride beneath it. As you can see, they have not moved, but I think it's worth hanging around. It is getting to the time of the day where they might think about moving. And as I said, hopefully they're going to head for a drink towards Buffalo's Hook waterhole. It's probably the closest water to them here. Lots of flies still bothering them. So there we have the sub-adult female. And Marlene from Montreal was wondering which one it is and how old she is about. She's probably about just over 2 years old now. So getting into that safe zone that the Birminghams might not try kill her. Oh no, sorry, yes, no, that is her. But one of the funny things, we find all sorts of stuff out in the bush, and Liam and I have found some dung. We're going to give you a quick look, and then we're going to go across to James, but see if you can figure out what dung this is on the dashboard. And remember, send your answers through to #SafariLive on Twitter or questions@wildearth.tv. But now over to James and some elephants.
Elephants, elephants, elephants all over the place today. We're at Treehouse Dam, and these elephants have been taking advantage of the little bit of mud that there is here. Tiny bit of mud, only as a result of that rain that we had. You can see they're covered in bits of mud all over the tusks. And there's one more still sitting around the mud. She's just finished. There she is, scratching her foot on a rock. They're talking to each other now. I'm sure you heard that. Andre, that one is face planting itself to the side there. Sorry, I think trying to dig a whole lot of mud, or dig some sand out to throw on himself. We can try and, shall I sneak forward? I'll just try and gently sneak forward. Sorry everybody, I'm trying to stay out of the way of the camera. They're all over the place. I don't know where to turn. We're often asked, do elephants lie down? Yes, they do. That one is just trying to pick... Ooh. Just going to back up a bit. The cow coming through here at quite some speed. And I don't want to get in her way. I think she wants to get to the water. Not that there's much in the way of water. We just came herring out of the bush. Something has got them very riled up. This is fascinating. Is going on? They're all urinating in the same place, or 2 or 3 of them are. Gone completely silent now. A whole lot more coming through. This is bizarre. I don't know what's going on here. I wonder if one of these cows isn't in estrus or about to give birth. Sorry, Chandra. No, it can't be about to give birth. They both seem to be suckling already. And the big one to the left-hand side doesn't look pregnant to me. They all kind of urinated on the same place. They're grumbling at each other constantly now. I don't know what's going on. But they've gotten kind of a protective group around the youngster. Maybe they smelt a predator? And that cow that came herring down towards us, she certainly wasn't coming at us at all. She just wanted to get to where she is now. And that little one is trying to smell us. Definitely sees us as a bit of a threat, but that's pretty normal behavior. Not a vicious boy. But they're grumbling all the time. Right, there's the one moving off there's the one that came herring through the bush at us. Chandra, what about nipping onto the damn wall? Should we do that? Get a view of them all? Does that work for you? The sun as well. Just watch him back there. Oh, I managed to park myself in the only fallen tree here. Let's go back to Brent. There's a warthog lurking about those lions, and we'll try and get into a decent position. I'll see you now.
So, while you were away, a warthog, Tara in FC's favourite animal, came within an inch of its life. It saw the lions at the last minute, but sort of almost trotting into them, but sort of got wind of them first and disappeared. So the heads are up. One lioness moved off a little bit onto the road to where the warthog went, but I think the excitement is now over. But hopefully this will spurn a little bit of movement from these animals, but as again, we don't want them to go north. Oh, it looks like she might come back towards the others. So we will stay here in case anything happens here, but while we do that, we'll go back to that incredible elephant sighting you're having with James.
So the sun has painted the sky 100,000 different glorious colours. The elephants have calmed down completely, and as we came down here they kind of melted off into the bush. I don't know what happened, why they got so upset. It might have been us, but I don't think so, you know. They were very, very relaxed around us when we started. And suddenly that cow came herring out of the bush. Right, so they're just going, we're on the damn wall now, of course, and they've just gone through here, so we'll follow them briefly and see what happens. I'm sure you can hear through the microphone that when you start the engine it makes kind of a which sounds like a kind of almost aggressive shout or roar. And I think it does affect the animals sometimes. Ideally, an electric car would be best. But electric cars are notoriously expensive, A, and B, difficult to maintain, especially in the bush. So I think it's a way off us getting an electric car. That would be ideal for this. Then you can hear what's going on all the time. And I know it's part of the plan, long-term plan, but at the moment it's not going to happen. Hello, Winston in Madison, Wisconsin. Good to have you with us. Thank you for your time and your question. You want to know if elephants bed down for the night. Do they lie down or do they sleep while they're standing? They do a bit of both. The youngsters will normally lie down, the very little ones. The adults sometimes lie down, and there's one just scratching himself there on the tree. And the big bulls, I mean, even the big bulls will lie down, but they can't lie down for too long, Winston, because their organs are so heavy that they kind of cause damage to one another if they lie on their sides for too long. So what you'll find is that the youngsters will lie down a lot more than the older ones. Sometimes they lean up against termite mounds and sleep, sometimes they lean against trees, and sometimes they just stand up and doze. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, a big bull doesn't need more than sort of 3 or 4 hours of sleep a day. Apparently the bigger you are as a mammal, the less you need to sleep. That doesn't apply, and I don't mean this facetiously, this doesn't apply intra specifically. So it doesn't mean a big person will need less sleep than a small person, but it does mean that an elephant will need less sleep than a bush baby, for example. I'll go a little bit forward there, Andre, you might get a better look at him. Other side. Now hopefully those Nkuhumas will start to do something useful as it gets a bit darker. Unlike the elephants, they do not sleep for only 3 hours a day. They're more of the 20 hours a day variety. So I think we'll just watch these fellows. They're going to melt off into the bush. And we'll carry on our way. We've had some success at Treehouse Dam. We'll carry on to Twin Dams. Now we have seen a lot of elephants today, and Rocky Knight, you say maybe the number of elephants is making them defensive. No, I don't think that's the case, Rocky Knight. They don't, you know, in times like this when it's dry, the elephants will just form bigger herds. They're not territorial at all, so they won't be threatened by the presence of other elephants, except if there's a musk bull around. A musk bull, who's trying to mate with some of the females and causing trouble in that way, will definitely provoke a reaction like the one we saw. And then, Halal Bonnie, you say maybe they smelt something like a hyena. I think that's possible. I don't think a hyena would necessarily have made them afraid, though, given the size of the adults in the herd. So I don't really think that's what it was. It's possible that they smelt some kind of predator. I find that urinating that they did very strange, though. So what elephants do, I suspect one of them's come into estrus, perhaps, and that's why they're getting excited about it. That urinating is indicative, I think, of estrus. I also think that they get very excited about it if the elephants are giving birth or if they're about to mate. The rest of the herd finds it an extremely exciting kind of affair, and they don't leave the mating pair or the birthing mother to themselves at all. They generally hang around and get very excited. So I wonder if that's not what it was. It may well have been us, of course, but that elephant who came charging, and maybe she felt the herd was threatened and she was going to go and stand with them in the face of the threat that we presented. But she didn't really look at us that much. So I don't know. Could be any of those things. Alright, another herd is melting into the greenery beyond, and we'll head off to Twin Dams and see what we can find there. Now, we watched elephants adopting a slightly strange posture. I'm sitting on a pillow that Jamie put in the car, and I don't know how on earth she sat on it. It's deeply uncomfortable. Lyle, you want to know about defense, and can they kick like zebras can? No, elephants cannot kick. Elephants cannot kick, and they cannot jump. They must have 3 feet on the ground at a time, at all times. Otherwise they tend to become a little wobbly, and so they can't kick. In terms of defense, what they do is they hit with their trunks, and obviously they stab with their tusks. But kicking, no, elephants are not good kickers. And the only land mammal that cannot jump. In order to kick effectively, you must be able to jump. And just sort of on the lines of the sleeping, Melissa, you say that in Amboseli, which is in Kenya, that the researchers there have confirmed that big elephants will in fact sleep for about 4 hours of the night, sometimes lying down. So thank you very much for that, Melissa. I'm glad I wasn't completely off the mark. Sometimes I am completely off the mark, but thank you for that very much. Jan, just back on to why those elephants were getting so excited. Maybe it was an excited greeting. I think yes, maybe. There was certainly a lot of rumbling. The thing is though that they were standing in that defensive formation. They're not being excited. When they're excited they do stick their tails out and they kind of shake their heads together, but they don't pick their heads up and lift their ears out. Georgia, on the electric vehicle, and it's a very good comment. I'm just going to get past these impalas. And the comment is from Debbie. And Debbie, you say if we had a quiet electric car, would it not sort of frighten the animals more because they wouldn't be able to hear us coming and we'd come around the corner and surprise them? That would definitely be something we'd have to be aware of, Debbie. But because we could hear so much better, we would know more accurately where animals were. But yes, it's a valid thought, and you'd have to be much more like you were on foot. Look at that chap looking at us out of the bush there. Just before we hand you back to Brent and the Nkuhuma Pride, if you're on foot and you see that looking at you out of the bush, you stop and go the other way. Isn't that lovely? Beautiful big buffalo bull. So in an electric vehicle, yes, he may not have heard us coming as soon as he did. But they will react to our voices. You know, and the amount that Brent and I waffle on at you, it's quite possible that all the animals would know we were coming. They'd know us by our voices. That would make a pretty good meal for the Nkuhuma Pride, so let's go back and ask them if they would like to come down here and eat this buffalo.
So after that tiny bit of excitement when the warthog accidentally bumped into the Nkuhumas, they have gone back to sleep. There is a bit of yawning and rolling happening, so hopefully they are thinking about getting moving. And I hear you have just come from an excellent meal, and they are fond of a buffalo. Speaking of meals, a little bit earlier, before we So it looks like you guys are far too smart for me. Georgia and Raisa and Claire were correct. Those were chocolates with raisins inside. I thought I'd give it a try. As the light got lower, it might fox you guys, but no, too smart. I've got a bit of movement from the lioness who had a slight gallop after that warthog. Where are you going, madam? Don't go that way. Oh, unfortunately, that other lioness has crossed our boundary. It almost looks like she has seen something, possibly. But you can see, I really believe that visual markers, visual communication between lions is something that is very, very real. They immediately react to the body stance of another lion. Going to let the game drives know that they're getting mobile. Let's just hold for a second. I am hoping they decide not to carry on in that direction and actually head around towards Buffel's Hook. Where are you going, guys? I think that warthog that ran off that way has sort of changed their mind. I really thought they were going to head to the Buffel's Hook waterhole, but they are acting like they've seen something, the front runners, at least. Can you see them there through the gap there? There we go. See, she definitely looks like she might be stalking, but stalking where we can't go, unfortunately. They're splitting now, the front lionesses. Well, here's the lioness with the limp coming. You can see it's much better already compared to a few days ago. And just remember, it's always quite a lot more stiff when she first starts moving. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for her to move. And Lazy Bones himself. So, guys, the potential of these lions doing something interesting now and maybe looping back towards the Buffel's Hook waterhole, if they don't find him there, is quite high. Well, there we got a bit of a phlegm and grimace from Junior. But there will be no fireside chat this evening. We'll try to stay with the lions as long as possible. So, while we're sitting with these lions and watching them start getting moving for the evening, Miss Jen in Dallas, Texas is wondering, do lions suffer from similar diseases to humans, like congenital heart disease and diabetes? Not that I'm aware of, and generally in the wild they don't get old enough to worry about those things. I'll normally be killed by another animal far before that stage. I know they do get cancer, TB, but I've never heard of heart disease or anything like that in lions. And it looks like they are turning to the east a little bit, which is good news. We're going to try keep parallel to them on our boundary. And I am hoping they're going to loop down towards the Buffel's Hook waterhole. They're not too far from there now. stations in Nkuhuma's got mobile north into Buffalo's Hook, currently mobile east parallel to the boundary. The only station here. Copy. Thanks, Shane. I'll try keeping a visual on them for as long as possible. Can you see them, VMP? I think I just saw one moving there. There we go. Slightly to the left of screen. To the left, a little bit. A little bit more. Stop. Behind that tree in center screen now. You can just see an ear. See there, Vim? There we go. You can see the black back of the ears there. And there you can see how well that following mechanism works. I mean, I could spot that, and we're probably 80-90 meters from them. Looks there's another one to the right as well. Just see the movement in the slightly light color there. So I was just mentioning those dark patches behind the lion's ears, and Kathy was wondering whether that's a coincidence, and Kathy's from Tennessee. So Kathy, not at all, it's a following mechanism, so they can follow each other through thick bush. Anything white or black sticks out in the African bushveld, and you also notice the black tips to their tails is another following mechanism. A little bit to the right. Is there another one there? I think that's a sandbar. So let's check onto the road. Just try to keep up with them. I'm hoping they are walking parallel.
Do a free path.
Yeah. Let's just keep going forward a little bit and find another gap. Got to tell Taxon what's going on quickly. Taxon Nkuhuma's mobile from the last position they crossed into Buffalo's Hook, now mobile east parallel to the boundary, but probably about 100 meters or so into Buffalo's Hook. So Buffalo's Hook waterhole's just over that next ridge over there where my finger is. Gap. See, I might just try to see if we can spot an eye through that. I think it might just be too far for the spotlight. I think they might still head to Buffalo's Hook waterhole. So what we were doing is we were waiting for Johan, who can go into Buffalo's Hook, maybe to try to stay with them. And he'll let us know if they come back to the boundary, and we'll go try find Mvula. So we've just seen this incredibly beautiful Nkuhuma pride. And Jessica, who's a new viewer, so welcome to Safari Live, Jessica. He wants to know whether those lionesses were the mates of that single male lion, and do lions have multiple sort of mates at the same time? That male lion is actually the son of one of those lionesses, and they are actually pride male-less at the moment. The old males who were in charge of the area they inhabit have been pushed out by new young males who they're still avoiding at the moment. So I just need to tell Johan what's coming up, who's coming up here, where those lions exactly last were. I think they might just be on this little road that's behind us here. Hello. How's it? Nice to see you, Han. Likewise. They just crossed this little two-track here, probably 80 meters in, 90 meters in, but heading east. Okay. If they head back down towards the boundary, you should let me know. I'm going to go do another check for Nkula around Buffalo's Hook. But there's a road right here. Yeah, right here. Some of them, like the young male, might still be crossing the road, but heading east. Okay, cool. I'll let you know. Thanks very much. So, if they do come back towards our traverse zone, we will know. And in the meantime, we're going to switch on our nocturnal gear. And you'll see now, boom, there we go. Spotlight out. Let's go see what else is out there in the African night. I haven't visited the bush baby nest for a while, so maybe that's on the way to Buffalo's Hook. Could be quite fun, see if they are utilizing that hole at the moment. While we make our way there, let's go see what Commander Bond's been up to.
So we're driving up the cheetah cut line now, heading towards Buffalo's Hook Dam, and I think Brent is probably going to come from those lions, recalcitrant lions, heading into Buffalo's Hook, which is very unkind of them. He's probably going to come around to this area too, and with any luck we'll see Nkula. I just couldn't resist the temptation to come into the area because I do so desperately want to see him. I haven't seen him for a long time. Tingana's not performing. It'd be nice to encourage Nkula to head a little bit further west and see if he can't find Karula. Now, we had a question from Dallas, Texas, apparently about diabetes and congenital heart problems in lions. I don't know a huge amount about it, but to say the following. A lot of our human diseases, like diabetes, type 2 diabetes, are caused by our Western diets. Mainly the consumption of refined carbohydrates and sugars. They tend to cause type 2 diabetes, which in turn create enormous problems for the heart. Now, there's some controversial medical stuff going on at the moment where a lot more of our heart problems as a society are being put down to the consumption of sugars and refined foods and different things like that rather than fats. Now, lions eat a huge amount of fat when they can, but obviously the animals that they eat are not filled with fat at all. They get a little bit of fat from the bone marrow, a little bit from the offal, from the organs, but in this time of the year, just after the winter, there'll be very little fat on the animals at all. So what I think you'll find, to make a long and convoluted story that's not particularly, that I'm certainly no expert in, I think you'll find that diabetes does not occur. It probably doesn't occur at all amongst wild animals. Type 1 diabetes, of course, is the diabetes you're born with. It's genetic. You would just die if you're an animal here with type 1 diabetes, and so that gene that perpetuates it wouldn't survive. In humanity, because of medical science, we've actually we've perpetuated the type 1 diabetes gene, because people with type 1 diabetes can now breed and have children and carry on, and that's wonderful. That's what medical science has been so successful at doing. Type 2 diabetes is entirely a lifestyle disease. Lions have a lifestyle that they've evolved to. It hasn't changed for millennia, millions of years, and so they don't have lifestyle diseases like we do, like congenital heart diseases, often brought on by bad diet, and certainly diabetes and that sort of thing are caused by the way that we eat. So lions don't have those sorts of problems. So we're gently heading up the cheetah cut line. It's the temperature's dropped to a fairly balmy, what, so 26, 27 degrees. Hasn't cooled down a lot, and there's a lot less cloud in the west than I thought there was going to be. I should probably get a spotlight out if I want to see a leopard. Probably a good idea. There it is. Now, throughout the years that I've been working in the bush, I've noticed a number of different spotlighting techniques. My tracker Elvis, who I worked with for many years, used to shine the spotlight like this. And my guest would say, how on earth is he able to spot anything? Well, I don't know how he did it, but certainly he never missed a chameleon, a bush baby or anything else, unless he was just tired and wanted to go home, in which case he missed them on purpose. Which is fairly valid after a 5-hour drive in the heat of the summer. Then there was a chap I used to work with also in the same place, and he was thoroughly bored with his job, and he would shine to the right and look to the left like that, so that his eyes would never actually follow anywhere near where the spotlight was going. He was a bit old and grumpy. Then there was Obed, and Obed used to look like he was conducting Tchaikovsky's violin concerto. And the most recent spotlighting technique I've learned, of course, is from the great Jamie Patterson, and it's an interesting one. It's this. And how those little arms of hers, very strong little arms of hers, managed to maintain the spotlight at this kind of height for the duration of the night drive, I do not know. I'm not sure if it's more effective. It's certainly more tiring than the kind of lazy way I do it. I rest my elbow languidly on the side of the door and try desperately to follow where the spotlight beam is going. So we're not too far from Buffelshoek Dam now. We'll drive around that fairway. I think Brent is there having a look now. Just going to get hold of Brent and tell him we're coming into the area and ask him if he has any suggestions as to where we should look. Brent, Leo Smith, come in. Brent, I'm coming hopefully to give you a hand. Is there anywhere you'd like me to look in this area? I'm on cheetah cut. Brent's just talking to me in my ear. So he was just suggesting that we various places to look for Nkuhuma. He's not really sure. He didn't find the tracks coming out of the block. Unfortunately, that leopard did go into a fairly horrendous block of bush. So we might be lucky though. You know, they do come out at night. It has cooled down a little bit. Now the far northeastern corner of Nkuhuma, and possibly in the dim distance in the west there you can see the lights of Acorn Hook and Hoedspruit nestled at the base of the mountains. Quite astonishing colours of the horizon there. So Brent is not too far off there, towards Buffelshoek Dam. A little disturbing noise. Did you hear that, John Ray? Kind of a hum from the left wheel arch. The left wheel might detach itself fairly soon. It would be disconcerting, to say the least. Right, let's nip across to Brenty. He's at Buffelshoek Dam. We'll head across to him, get an update, and I'll see you just now.
Here we go. So as we've been approaching one of the little tracks that lead up to the Bottles Hook waterhole, we noticed this giant of the African avifauna, Marabou stork, the old man or the undertaker of the bush, sitting atop a dead knobthorn. And we just decided, you can see they're in their breeding plumage at the moment, which obviously we're not going to see in this light, but bright red on their faces and on their necks. So what we're hoping, I know James is going to approach Bottles Hook waterhole from the other direction and see if Nkuhuma maybe went that way. We're going to come down from the side, check if he maybe came back for a drink. There is a possibility he might have a kill somewhere close by with that fat belly, and he just came down for a drink and then headed back, and he might head back for another drink now. So let's go have a look. So we were fortunate enough to be able to show you that huge hammercorp nest earlier on today's safari, and Heidi was wondering, is that just for one pair? It is, Heidi, isn't that incredible? They build this monster double-decker mansion for just 2 little birds and their offspring. And Dennis was wondering if I know any tribal or cultural stories about the hammercorp. Says he remembers them being called the lightning bird in the 80s. I don't offhand, but I know there are some, and I will definitely do some research to see if I can find out about them for you, Dennis. So another nice thing about the summer months as we move through is always keep an eye out for chameleons, and sometimes you even get lucky enough to find snakes sleeping up on the peripheries of the trees. We also might catch these hippopotami heading out for their nightly forage. I've been very fortunate enough to travel all around Africa, and Clancy from Ohio is wondering if I've ever been lucky enough to see the wild horses of the speargebied in Namibia. Well, the speargebied in Namibia means it's banned area, protected area. It is the diamond mining concessions. You are not allowed in there without special permission. And fancy those horses, they're not truly wild, they're actually feral. So the difference between wild and feral is that they have become wild because they escaped from humans, and that happened during World War I. And they're very nice horses, Hanoverians, which is a warm blood, and a very, very expensive horse that's used mostly for dressage and show jumping. Just want to see if we can have a look up that other little thing in case the leopard's there. No such luck. But we do have the hippos and the geese. But apparently those horses are actually quite a bone of contention for the Namibian government at the moment. They are actually, as far as I know, planning to destroy them, actually affecting that environment. And those desert environments, where they're very specially adapted animals, something like a horse could put quite a lot of pressure on the indigenous fauna that are there. So I'm not sure what is happening. You see the younger one being leant upon. Hang on, you can hear something coming through the... Oh, we're not going to put the lights on. I'll just show you quickly. Some buffalo came stomping through the bush. Oh. It's also very important that this... Oh, I just thought, what have we got there? Oh, zoom in on that there, please, for me, Jim. If I think it is what I think it is too. Guys, this should be a really nice new bird species for our birders. It is not something we see very often, and quite unusual to find it here. It normally lives along main rivers. That is a black-crowned night heron. A black-crowned night heron. When I saw the one flying in, I thought maybe it was one. Then this one's sitting there on the edge of the water. But I don't want to put the lights on it for too long. Don't want to disturb it. But there we go. A really nice new bird for everyone. Black-crowned night heron. Obviously likes to do its fishing at night. Hence the name. Sure, those hippos are really stuck in the mud there, and I think that mud is just really soft and they're able to force their way through it. Definitely desperate times if the hippos have chosen to move into the Buffalo's Hook waterhole when it's this low. You can see the scars on that female there, and obviously there's a serious shortage of space for the hippos in the other water holes that would cause them to basically sit in the sludge that is Buffalo's Hook waterhole.
Everybody, that, if I'm not very much mistaken, is a Mozambican spitting cobra. Standing up now, look. You can see that from the bands on the body. Common snake around here. Find them in our homes quite a lot. Beautiful big snake. And they have what's called, they're a unique snake, and they've got neuro and cytotoxic venom. So they spit and very accurately into the eyes. There we go. You might see him better like that. How's that, Chandra? Is that better?
That's what you heard.
Okay. And then also neurotoxic venom for paralyzing their prey. Oh, he's disappearing off into the bush. Beautifully spotted. Well done, Chandra. There he goes. Still got him there. Silent. Looking for little gerbils, unsuspecting small chameleons maybe. I'm pretty sure that's what that was, a spitting cobra. Certainly no danger to us at this distance. The only reason that snake would rear up and spit at you was if you threatened it, and obviously we were no threat at all to him. Marvellous. Wasn't that spectacular?
Rather.
First one second snake I've seen on the roads. We had a Peter's blind snake the other day, which was really fascinating. But that was on foot and slightly less intimidating than a cobra. See if we can see him again. See him anywhere, Jean-Louis? Yeah. We got him. Should we go back? Oh, there he is. I wonder if he'll climb the tree. There he comes. He's come out the back of the tree. wondering why it's suddenly daytime again. Now, I think I've got the identification correct. The only thing that's making me worry about the ID is that they're not supposed to be nocturnal. Maybe it's a snouted cobra. Pretty sure it's a cobra though. Look at the movement. I mean, the movement is just amazing. He's also too banded now. He's too banded to be a spitting cobra. I'll find out what he is. My herpetology is a little bit rusty at the moment. Go back a bit. It's turning. Alright, let's leave the snake. Let's go back to Brent. He's got some hippos going out of the water, which is slightly less heebie-jeebie giving than the snakes. See you just now.
There we go, the hippos are on their way out the water. You can see that female there, she's actually got quite a limp. The tiny baby, well not that tiny, but the young one, is out in front of her. Hopefully it turns to the side and we'll be able to see it. But we'll just focus on the one coming out now quickly. And you can actually see the mud on their bodies. I mean, literally, the Boversdorp waterhole now is sludge rather than water. It looks like a little sub-adult there. Not fully grown yet. There's the little baby out in front. So the Afrikaans name for a hippopotamus is a seerkoei, and Afrikaans is Wim's native language. A seerkoei, basically a sea cow. So when the first Dutch explorers and colonists came to Africa, most of the lagoons that ran into the ocean were full of hippos. Now, very few lagoons in South Africa have hippos, but Lake St. Lucia is probably the best and biggest of them. But where I was based in Gabon, in Central Africa, the hippos used to actually move between the lagoons via the ocean. So we used to see hippos in the waves occasionally while I was there. Incredible. So, of course, hippos can't swim. They sort of need to be standing, and Virginia and Kentucky is wondering, do baby hippos ever drown? They do, but generally when there's quite a lot of turmoil, when there's fighting amongst the males or even amongst the females, that's when they do drown. They sort of get lost in the pandemonium of a hippo fight. I'm just going to move the light. There he is. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to move the spotlight a little bit further away from me. The bugs are insane at the moment. Watch out, guys, there's lions just up the road. And I think they're coming here. Sorry, Ben. There's a bug in my eye. So hippos can move up to 30 kilometers away from the water to graze at night. Okay, disappearing around the corner. Let's have a look here. The big bull is still on his way, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Vicky from New Mexico says, what a day, Mvula and Junior. And on top of that, Vicky, Karula and Tingana mating. It looks like you can almost see, look at that mud bubble around him. So I just want to check something. Just heard some noise on the side. It was just the heron. Heron fishing, the black crowned night herons. That new bird species, I'm sure for quite a few of you are keeping the bird lists. Awesome bird. And let's have a look, is that hippo? No, he doesn't look like he's quite ready to go out. But there we might get a better view of the heron, utilizing our light to fish. Paul's wondering, there's another one, there's 3 here, isn't that incredible? Paul's wondering, isn't it hard for this heron to hunt at night? Well, Paul, it's specially adapted to hunting at night, so it's got very good night vision and very good hearing, so quite a lot of it will be frogs and other small fish. Let's have a look. That hippo's not moving, so I think he might stay. Quite often, even though the hippos will spend their whole day next to each other, they forage individually. Let's throw our dice one last time for Mr. Nkuhuma. Otherwise, hopefully we can find some nice fresh tracks in the morning to follow. Good news as well. Scott and Nikki will be getting back tomorrow, and I will be disappearing for a few days. While we throw the dice for Nkuhuma one last time this evening, we've got a couple of questions pertaining to Nkuhuma's scat that nearly made me become violently ill while live. Liam was chuckling much better while my eyes were watering while collecting that scat. So Bob and Debbie and Wendy all have questions on that, and I'd like to know how wide is this sort of paternity study going on, and how long till we get results. So it is across the whole Sabi Sands, and I'm getting an updated list of all the scats that have been collected so far. And so we don't collect scat twice, because it's not the most pleasant experience collecting any carnivore scat. And in terms of when we will have results, not for some time. I would probably say at the earliest probably a year from now. So I went and checked one of the little bush baby dens that we know about. Unfortunately, they're not utilizing that den at the moment. So we might, you never know, we might find another one on the way home this evening. And I also just want to check the last little check around here. And it has been fantastic having you all with us on this sunset safari and on the sunrise safari, and what a Sunday it's been. 3 different leopards, the Nkuhuma pride, some incredible ellie sightings, and a baby hippo out the water, and a snake. So wonderful. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to join everyone on the sunrise safari, and I'll see you in a couple of days.
Right, we have left we kind of left the area where Mvula we thought he might be found, taking a bit of a chance, coming a little bit further east towards Hyena Road, that goes up there, towards the Buffelshoek cut line, and this certainly used to be a traditional haunt for Mvula before he decided that the southern reaches of the Sabi Sands, or the northern Sabi Sands, were a better place for him to be. Sadly, hopefully he will be back for a little bit longer than one day. Very jealous that I didn't see him earlier today. Wonderful that you saw that black crowned night heron. I think I've seen one at Buffelshoek Dam. The other day we had that incredible sighting of wild dogs with Chandra, it's not nice to laugh at other people's pain. Everyone, I was just pelted in the eye by a deeply irksome member of the Coleoptera, i.e. a beetle. Now, thank you very much, Chandra, for your very kind sympathy. I now will not be able to see out of my right eye for a week. I'll probably have a black eye tomorrow. Right. Everybody, today's drive we did in honour of a fellow called Donald, and Donald unfortunately passed away at age just 36 very recently. He loved Safari Live, and his mother Deb from Connecticut is a dedicated Zoomie. And Deb, we're very, very sorry for your loss, and we're glad that we could do this drive in his honour, and I hope that it has in some way managed to ease the pain that you are feeling along with the rest of your family. So to Donald, wherever you are, hopefully rejoicing with us on a on a distant shore in a far greater light, I hope that you are continuing to enjoy your safari. There you are, Deb, and keep safe and strong wherever you happen to be. Right, thank you, Jean-Andre, for your efforts today very much. Big thank you, of course, to Brent and Viam on the other car, to Tara and her twiddling dials, and Jerry and her tapping fingers. Big thank you to them. We will see you tomorrow at the Dawn Safari at 5:30. You've given me some wonderful stuff to think about yet again with your questions and comments, so thank you very much for that, and we will see you tomorrow at 5:30 in the bright, magnificent African dawn. Bye-bye.